Imagine a child, let's call her Elara. At 5 years old, Elara can dismantle a complex mechanical puzzle meant for 12-year-olds, her small fingers moving with a surgeon's precision. She understands the concept of infinity and asks questions about black holes that stump her parents. But later that same day, she has a meltdown of seismic proportions because her sandwich was cut into triangles instead of rectangles. She sobs, her whole world collapsing over a geometric shape. This is the core, the central paradox of the gifted child, asynchronous development. Their intellectual development is a Formula One car, screaming ahead at 200 miles per hour. But their emotional, social, and even physical development is often in the family sedan, moving at a steady, age-appropriate pace. The car and the sedan are tethered together, and the resulting ride is often bumpy, unpredictable, and jarring. Elara's brain is a sprawling, interconnected city with superhighways of thought. A simple question like, "What did you do at school today?" doesn't trigger a simple memory. It activates a metropolis of connections. Her parents are left bewildered. They asked about recess, and they got an existential crisis. This is the daily reality. The gifted brain doesn't just learn, it synthesizes, connects, and ruminates. It's a web where every strand vibrates with the touch of another. A Polish psychologist named Kazimierz Dabrowski gave us a beautiful framework for understanding this intensity. He called them overexcitabilities, OEs, innate tendencies to experience the world in a deeper, more vivid, and more complex way. Think of them as having bigger, more sensitive antennae that pick up more signals from the world, both beautiful and painful. There are 5 main types, and a gifted child often has several. The engine that won't quit. This isn't just being energetic. This is a surplus of physical energy that manifests as rapid speech, intense enthusiasm, a compulsion to act, and a need for movement. This child might talk a mile a minute, fidget constantly, have difficulty sleeping because their brain and body are still revving, and use physical movement as a way to process complex emotions. They're not being naughty, their engine is simply idling too high. The overwhelmed senses. This child experiences the world in ultra-high definition. A tag on a shirt isn't a minor annoyance. It's a constant, sandpaper-like torture. The hum of the fluorescent lights in the classroom is a distracting, maddening drone. They might be a picky eater because textures and tastes are overwhelmingly intense. Conversely, they can be transported to a state of bliss by the texture of velvet, the complex flavors of a food, or a piece of music, losing themselves completely in the sensory experience. The insatiable why. This is the one most people recognize. It's the relentless curiosity, the deep need for understanding, the voracious appetite for knowledge. This child doesn't just ask, "Why is the sky blue?" They ask, "What is the physics of light scattering? And does it work the same way on other planets? And if the atmosphere were different, would we see a different color? And what is color, really?" They devour books, love complex games, and have a powerful drive to seek truth and justice. Their minds are constantly, ceaselessly active. The rich inner universe. This child lives with one foot in reality and one in an elaborate, detailed inner world. They have imaginary friends with complex backstories. They invent elaborate fantasy games that can last for weeks. They may have a deep fear of metaphorical or fantastical things, like being sucked down the bathtub drain. Because their imagination makes it feel viscerally real. They think in images, metaphors, and stories, and they often use elaborate fantasy as a safe haven from a world that can feel too harsh or boring. Feeling the weight of the world. This is perhaps the most profound and challenging OE. These children have a capacity for emotional depth that is far beyond their years. They don't just get happy, they experience rapturous joy. They don't just get sad, they plunge into depths of despair. They have intense empathy. Seeing a sad character in a book or a homeless person on the street can trigger a genuine, prolonged grief. They have a strong sense of justice and are often devastated by perceived unfairness, whether on the global news or in the schoolyard. They feel everything, and they feel it deeply. With this unique mental and emotional makeup, navigating the social world is like being an alien trying to blend in on Earth. The loneliness of being different. A 7-year-old who wants to discuss the ethics of time travel while her peers are playing tag will quickly feel isolated. She finds it hard to find her people, those who think at her speed and share her intense interests. This can lead to a deep sense of loneliness and the feeling of being an outsider, even in a crowd. The chameleon effect. Many gifted children become social chameleons. They are astute observers and learn to mask their abilities to fit in. They dumb down their vocabulary, hide their knowledge, and pretend to be interested in things they find mundane, all to avoid being labeled a know-it-all or being bullied. This is a survival tactic, but it's emotionally exhausting and can lead to a loss of identity. The perfectionism trap. When learning comes easily early on, a gifted child often develops a fixed mindset. They believe their intelligence is their identity. I am smart. The moment they encounter something challenging, a concept they can't grasp instantly, a skill they aren't immediately good at, their entire identity feels threatened. The fear of failure becomes paralyzing. They would rather not try than try and risk not being the smart one anymore. This leads to procrastination, avoidance. The existential dread. It's not uncommon for a gifted 8-year-old to lie awake at night, gripped by thoughts of climate change, war, poverty, and the meaninglessness of life. Their advanced intellectual capacity allows them to comprehend vast, abstract, and frightening concepts, but their emotional maturity isn't yet equipped to process them. This can lead to anxiety and depression that seems to come out of nowhere, but is deeply rooted in their way of perceiving the world. So, what does a child like Alara need? It's not just about more work or skipping a grade. It's about holistic support, understanding, not just acceleration. They need parents and teachers who understand asynchronous development, who can celebrate their intellectual leaps while still comforting their emotional meltdowns without judgment, who get that a child can be a philosophical genius and still need help tying their shoes. A safe harbor for their intensity. They need permission to feel deeply. Instead of, don't be so sensitive, they need to hear, I see you're feeling this very strongly. Tell me about it. They need their overexcitabilities validated as strengths, not punished as inconveniences. The gift of challenge and struggle. They need to be deliberately placed in situations where they don't know the answer immediately. They need to be taught that struggle is not failure, it's the gateway to growth. They need a growth mindset. I may not be able to do this yet. Finding their tribe, connecting with other gifted children, whether through specialized programs, clubs, or online communities, can be life-changing. It's the profound relief of finally being understood, of having a conversation where you don't have to explain yourself or hold back. Emphasis on character, not just IQ. They need to be praised for their effort, their resilience, their kindness, and their curiosity, not just for being smart. This helps build an identity that isn't solely dependent on their intellectual ability. The psychology of a gifted child is not a recipe for creating a future Nobel laureate, though that may happen. It is the story of a different kind of consciousness, one that experiences the world with a shocking clarity and a profound depth. It can be exhausting, for the child and for those who love them. It is a path marked by intense joy, profound sadness, frustrating stubbornness, and breathtaking creativity. They are not little adults. They are children with powerful engines and sometimes fragile steering, navigating a world that often feels too loud, too slow, and too simple. To understand them is to see that their gifts are not just about academic prowess. They are a way of being, a more vivid, more complex, and more intense way of experiencing what it means to be alive. Our job is not to dim their light, but to provide a steady base from which its brilliant, sometimes chaotic, beams can shine without burning out.